Well, let me give you a little tour of the work site here. This is the above ground pool deck. And then this is where the stairs were previously across this area that's unpainted. Down here was the lower deck. The lower deck was about 8-10 inches off the ground, maybe 10-12 inches off the ground anyway. It was a lower deck here, and it was rotting out because it was so close to the ground. It wasn't built with the best material in town, so we tore up this lower deck and had concrete poured. One thing though that's interesting is this concrete has got a nice slope away from the house, which is appropriate, but that slope creates a bit of a challenge when you try to make stairs. That slope is about 1.5 inches when you go from post to post. So our stringers, which I showed you what the ideal stringer would look like, that turns out that's going to be the middle stringer of the three. But the other two must be cut to different heights at the bottom. So if you look down here at the bottom, you'll see that this is at one of them is at a lower height than the other. Forgive the pile. This is the old stairs, and then also some cuttings off of the other wood that we're using. This was the test stringer I cut. It worked great, and so well worth it. That was an old 8-foot 2x12 that I had pre-existing, was untreated, and relatively cheap compared to these treated 2x12s that we're using for cutting now. So that's kind of a walk around the job site. One thing to correct, this bottom board here, which I said that was a 2x10 or 2x8, it's actually a 2x6. So it's important that we use a ledger board and we take that step all the way up to where we're taking it. So I'm going to move on. We're going to start cutting the last stringer. 2 stringers are cut. We're going to start cutting the last 2 stringers, and the last 1 stringer, and I'll set us up and so you can see the process to do that. I'm going to try this section of video again. Seems like the first time I did this, something went awry. Let me introduce you to step gauges or rafter gauges. Basically, they're little screw-on brass stops. You'll note this brass stop is set at 6 3/4 of an inch. It's our rise. And then this brass stop is set at 11 inches, which is our run. See if you can tell that or not. Yeah. Anyway, so this is our run. This brass stop set at 11 inches on this side. This brass stop set at 6 3/4. If you look, what we do is we lay this out on the board. We draw around these 2 sides, and bam, there's a step. Here's your run. Here's your rise. The way this board's laid out, and I always mark them, this is the top. This is going to go up against the deck. So this is the top. This particular dimension is custom. It's 6 inches. Has to do with completing a tread right across the top. We're just using 1 board since you have the entire deck surface to walk on. So then this, you'll note, is it's a 5.5 by 1.5 inch cutout. This is going to be where our ledger board rides. So then we just take our square, and using our step gauges, we just draw a series of steps, and we go from end to end, where one ends, the other one begins, and we just continue along until we have all of our steps laid out. There we go. We have all of our steps laid out until we get to the bottom. Now we lay out this last step here on the bottom. Let me get this set in here correctly. We lay out this last step here on the bottom, and then using another square up against this one, we then draw this line, and this is the face of the bottom step. And then using that same square, we then draw a line back, which is parallel to this line. And this is the foot. This is what it will sit on. Now there's also another 1.5 inch by 5.5 inch cut out here, which we're going to have a baseboard here that'll be secured to the concrete. So that's how you lay out the stringer. Lay it out according to your plan. And what I stated in an earlier video, I don't know, this is our test stringer, which was not treated lumber, it's just some spare lumber I had laying around to confirm that all the dimensions were correct. Here's 2 of them. These are the 2 ends. These do not have cutouts for the ledger. or for the footboard, we're going to screw into the footboard this way, into the ledger this way, and then also from the back side of the deck we'll screw into those as well, so they'll be very well secured. So we're going to go ahead and cut this thing and be the last one, and then we can get started on actually constructing something for a change. All right, well, you can see we've gotten the stringers in place. Here's our footboard, and we're going to use a hammer to drive nails into the concrete, and then on up the stringer we go. I put this toe board on just for fun. You can see there's a ledger board right here. You can tell the depth here versus the depth here. There's a ledger board across there. This one has the notch in it, notched around the ledger board. So I screwed the ledger board onto the back of this one first, mounted that up, and then butted these up on the ends, and then put screws into the ledger board, and we're also going to toenail a few right here into this board. So yeah, the stringers are up and done. The only challenge I'm having now is trying to figure out what is straight off of the deck. Back up here a little ways. Basically we're asking the question, does it mean to move right or left? I use a square there off these boards. It looks pretty square. It looks like that's going to only be the only way to tell. It's fairly square off the edge of the concrete, but I'm relatively confident the concrete's not straight either. So anyway, so we'll secure these with a power hammer, and then we'll go ahead and start properly constructing this thing. Let's talk a minute, if we can hear over the mower next door, but let's talk a little bit about treads and toe boards. You can see the toe boards. There you go. Toe boards here, toe boards here. Basically just keeps you from putting your foot through and under the stairwell. And then, as I said, we've got two treads, 2x6 treads. Now, when you pick out your material, in our case we have 6 3/4 inch rise. If I wanted the toe board to go the entire height of that 6 3/4 inches, I would have had to get a 1x8 and then cut it down to 6 3/4. Instead, I got a 1x6, and I didn't cut it all, but it doesn't quite rest on the stringer down here, which is fine. It's not intended to, not necessarily that it does. So what we're doing, basically, we use a 1x underneath to set this gap right here. Where's it at? So using a 1x to set this gap, just slide a 1x up, put the toe board on. It's just below the top of the run, and we're putting screws in here. So pretty much all the toe boards are on now, with the exception of the very bottom one. Now the very bottom one's going to have to be cut, because again, there's a severe angle from that end to this end. So we'll trim it, try to make it look as right as we can, and it'll be fine. So then once the toe boards are on, it's just a matter of stacking on your tread boards. You know, we're putting screws throughout, 2 to a board on each of the 3 stringers. That's 6 screws holding down one board. Maybe ridiculous, but hey, it ain't going nowhere. So we're almost there. We did go ahead and add the newel posts. The newel posts will still have to be trimmed to get the right height and angle, but for now, we had secured the newel posts. Now, here's what we're doing. I'm not suggesting what you should do, but we're finding that we don't really need to connect the newel post to the concrete, which originally we were going to use some anchoring braces to connect it there at the base, but as it turns out, it's really a bit unnecessary. What we ended up doing, though, is we ended up putting in 2 lag bolts, you see there, with washers, and then at the same time we're also screwing it there into the toe plate, and already this thing is really stout. Then as we add this tread across here. The intention will be also to screw into it from an angle there and from the back as well. So bottom line is we're comfortable with the newel post being not secured to concrete. The baseboard that I talked about is secured. You can see the little red plastic pieces that go with those power hammer nails. Basically it's a 22 caliber driver, and it's well secured there. So we're happy and we're nearly finished. I had a final video segment to this process, but you can see the stairs are built out, handrails are in place, newel post is cut. Basically when you look at rail heights, you want to measure from the nose of the step here up to the handrail. That's the governing factor. Look up the standards, you'll see what they are. This one's about 30 inches, and so that's the guys that you want to use. Told you that the slab was very sloped downhill that way, and you can see that we've adjusted for that. The level on those steps are just as level as they can be all the way up. So we're still going to add some decorative 2x2s to the handrails to make it fit in with the rest of the deck. That's no big deal. Let you figure that one out on your own. Don't think it'll be a problem. So it's done. I'm happy. Stairs. I hope you enjoy watching. Hope it's helpful. Thanks. Bye-bye.